This was my drawing that I came up of my still life. It's simple. It probably should have been bigger. I should have made this quite a bit larger to fill the page a little bit more. It felt okay here, but then as soon as I got it onto my paper with the background, I can kind of tell that needs to be bigger. But for the sake of teaching you guys the next step, we're gonna leave it this size. So I have this image drawn onto here. The next step is to work with watercolor. So let me talk to you about watercolor first. The most important thing with watercolor is water. So I'm going to take my brush and I'm going to put a few little puddles of water into each of these little pans. Then I'm going to choose what color I want and I'm going to start putting water into it. I am not trying to make this thing look like it has the final layer on it yet. This is just trying to make the whole thing a tint of a color. And so I'm going to choose a color. It does not have to be realistic. I think I'm going to do something bright for mine. And I'm going to start loading this color onto here. So I'm going to start picking up a lot of red from this paint cake and mixing it into here. For mine, I think I want to have a transition into a lighter color. So I'm going to wash off my brush in the water. Make sure that you have water. It's important to have water for watercolors. And I'm going to start putting a yellow over here. Once I start painting, I need to have all the paint I need already loaded into these puddles. Okay, I'm gonna wash my brush again. Typically, I work from 2 cups of water. 1 cup that's going to be my dirty water, and then 1 cup that's my clean water that I'm painting with. Okay, I'm always going to reload using this paint, not directly from the paint cake. If I load directly from the paint cake, it's going to leave streaks in my paint. I'm going to use lots of water, and I'm going to load it up. So for my glue gun, I'm going to take my time, really try to etch into the lines, making sure I'm not going past the line. This is much practice as it is anything. You do not need to go fast. Typically, the first person that finishes has the worst artwork. It is a slow process. If I want to start to change the color, I may start dipping into this yellow and pulling it into that very wet watercolor. Notice how much water is on my brush and how much water is being laid down on this paper. There's quite a bit. I'm just covering up all the details for this layer. Then I'll come back in and make some of these details darker. This is a soft, transparent, which means see-through layer that I'm trying to get a solidarity throughout this whole thing. So I want everything in my red glue gun to be red. Then next time when it dries, I'll come back in and start painting the details on top of this. With watercolor, we're typically going to use quite a few layers. This is just layer 1. We'll probably use 5, 6 layers on this glue gun, making some parts darker, emphasizing some parts with charcoal pencil, emphasizing some with darker watercolor paints. It is important that I take my time and stay inside these lines. When I'm painting with watercolor, I want to paint with a watercolor brush, which means that I'm not using a hog hair brush, which is one of those tan brushes that is kind of wiry and stiff. These brushes, these watercolor brushes, are a little bit softer. I already have these separated for you. The watercolor brushes will be in the white, will be in a white mug. And then I have a bunch of these paint cups that you'll fill up clean water in. And then you'll get yourself a paint cake. And you'll start to repeat this process the same way I am. I'm just adding a solid layer down to everything that I've drawn. I can come back in and add details next time. Okay, I think you're ready. I think that you know what you need to do. However, if you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to ask me. Sometimes I know I'm not perfectly clear. Whenever you're ready, you may get up, go to the sinks, get yourself a watercolor cakes, watercolor paintbrush, and a cup of water, and you may start to paint this thing.
Tuesday.